It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily with positive vibes. Yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews. You never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
It is time for our positive vibes only segment here on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington. And joining me this week, we've got a tremendous talent, a woman of many hats, a self-awareness and meditation coach, an author, Rajshree Patel. Welcome to the show, Raj.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Renee.
I am thrilled to have you. I'm excited to hear all the amazing things and work that you've done in the self-awareness and meditation realm, self-improvement. Let's get started. What really got you into it? You talk about being, before we were even getting into the interview, you talked about being a lawyer and going that direction. What made you get into being a self-awareness?
Well, it's exactly as you said. You know, I was working in the LADA's office before that, with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I was a prosecutor, no less, very left brain. Couldn't have expected to be doing anything that I'm discussing today. And by chance, I happened to see an ad that said Ravi Shankar, and I just assumed it was a very famous sitar player at the time. He's no longer alive, but I thought, well, musician, I just moved from New York to LA. It's a good way to meet people. Let me go and check this out and see what it's about. And when I arrived, in fact, I came across a spiritual master, Sri Ravi Shankar, just a common name, Ravi Shankar in India. And I was curious. I figured, okay, I'm here. The universe brought me here. And maybe I didn't even think that consciously, but it was just this like, okay, Friday night or Monday night, I'm here. Let's just see what this is about. And that curiosity had me experience for the first time in my life something I hadn't really ever thought about, which is my inner landscape. You know, how we feel, what we think creates so much of what we produce outside. And that's actually our vibe, I think, to your point. And so because I was there and because I went through it, just out of curiosity, I noticed a huge shift Monday morning when I went to work. And it was concrete. Yeah, it was concrete changes in the sense like I bought time for myself, which is something everybody wants. Instead of taking, let's say, 4 hours to process and analyze and put a case together, I noticed I was doing it in quarter the time. I was sleeping better. I was waking up more vibrant and more alive. And the other thing that changed was the way people engaged and interacted with me. And I think that meant some internal vibe or frequency or resonance had changed along with it. Because we know, when we're positive, when we're clear, when we're uplifted, we invite all the good things in our life. And that's the vibe that shifted. And from there, I just continued to explore more, and I went on to do silence retreats and get deeper into meditation. And then 1989, I left law. I went to India. I studied with this master for 5 years. Amazing master, where I had direct experience and learning and so on with him. And then I started to spread his message on meditation and self-awareness and how really changing ourselves from the inside out changes the vibe, and how effortless we make our life in terms of relationships and connections and success and whatever else we might want to do in life.
Ooh, I love that. And where do I sign up? No, but one of the biggest things that I think you touch on with all of this is just how you weren't given, it's not like you were given more time in the day. We all have the same amount of hours in a day, but you were able to kind of adjust your approach to each day and each moment of your day that you were more you felt like you were more rested. You felt like you were getting more done, being more productive. Your mindset changed. And then the way people saw you change, putting out that positive energy, it's like a boomerang. It comes back around. What you put out in the universe comes back to you. And so
Absolutely.
I love that, because I was just having a conversation, ironically, with a friend, and actually with my sister. And we were talking about how everyone feels like once you get past a certain chapter of your life, like your problems just disappear. So for me, as a single woman, like once people feel like once you get married, like you have no problems anymore. Now you don't. And I'm like, no, your problems just change. So my problems as a single woman are just different than my problems as a dating woman and as a married woman, like readjust or adjusting how we look at the world to realize you all have problems, but you all have the same amount of hours in the day on how you deal with those problems. So,
Absolutely. Well, I think part of what you're saying, Renee, to me is that when we can change our perception, then we
mhm,
change how we tackle or how we go through the challenge that's in front of us. Sometimes
absolutely.
5 minutes seem like an eternity, and sometimes 5 days seem like a moment. And that's because of how we perceive through our own eyes, how we experience things. And clearly, I don't know even if you did this, but yesterday I was watching the Super Bowl with my husband
Oh,
and some
absolutely.
friends. Yeah. And it was like the last 5 minutes, and clearly it was, okay, Kansas is losing. And it seems like, well, the game is over. You know how the mind gives up long before. Certainly my husband was like, I thought they would have done better. And he was going on and on about it. And my mind kept saying, and I was saying to him, well, look, 5 minutes isn't about the clock. It's if they can get their game on, which is an
Mhm.
internal state, which is like getting clear and saying, okay, this is in front of me. There's a challenge. I'm going to be able to shift it. It's all about perception. And when that mind, as you said, mindset, when that shifts, then everything gets behind you, because I think we're connected to everything and anything around us. We just don't realize it. We're a ball of energy, and everything, it's basic physics, everything's energy. And so if we up level our energy, our life force, then somehow I feel like the universe gets behind us.
Oh, yeah. And I love that metaphor to the Super Bowl, because you're absolutely right. It's not about how much time you have, it's what you do with the time that you have. So
Yeah.
5 minutes could mean nothing if you don't make the most of it. Or like the Chiefs did to win the Super Bowl, they made the most of it. They took the lead. They got big defense, whatever. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to look at it, changing your mindset and your perception on the challenges versus just kind of that woe is me mentality. So
Yeah.
you work in self-improvement. I love that term, self-improvement, because it's not something that you always hear. Where
No.
did what made you really take on the realm of self-improvement, not just self-awareness, not just meditation, not just, all the words that we always hear, but something different, starting
Well,
from within, and that success, and self-care and all those pieces. Go ahead.
I think like there's so much attention in our training. For me, certainly it's like that. You come from India, it's a very pragmatic culture, and everything is focused on doing the right thing at the right moment. Like, okay, you go to high school, you go to college, you get the right job, you get married, you have the right kids in the right house. All of those things are laid out for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're constantly improving our outer world, the way things are around us, the way things look, the way things are where you live, the car you have, the traffic that you drive in or don't drive in, the clothes you wear. We constantly put in a lot of time, effort, energy, resource in changing or improving, in this case, everything we see, touch, and feel. But when I, back in 1989, suddenly got exposed to this idea of my inner world, my feelings, my emotions, my vibe, my outlook, my perception, my positivity, my optimism, when I started to connect to that, I realized it was an improvement in the way I looked out of my eyes. It was an improvement in the way I viewed myself. Before, I had this sort of limiting beliefs or limiting assumptions about who I am or what I can do or what I can accomplish. And if I saw some, amazing person, I would say, well, maybe they could do it, but I'm not sure that I could. And if I could improve or change the perception, I knew I could change the game. And so it's as a result of that, I realized the conversation really needs to be about self-awareness, self-improvement, self-perception, self-acceptance, which we don't do. I find that we just run, and certainly that was the case for me, filling the gaps from one thing to another thing, accomplishing one thing to another thing, and soon enough I would run short, and then I'd be back again at self-deprecation or self-judgment or self-analysis or being the worst self-critic, which I think everybody does. We're like our worst self-critic. And this notion of self-improvement is where you see yourself with love and kindness. And self-awareness means self-acceptance and giving compassion to oneself to say, it's like this right now, it'll be different tomorrow, let me go give my 100% and see what happens. And that, I think, started the whole journey for me, where I started traveling around the world, and 35 countries later and hundreds of thousands of people later, whether it's CEOs or students or homemakers or athletes, I see that at some level or another, we all need to shift the way we view ourselves internally. And when we do that, it becomes the game changer. And that's what also made me, sort of write the book, The Power of Vital Force. And it's what inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing.
And one of the things I love about that, and first of all, it resonates so much with me, but that's the greatest part about all of this is, as you mentioned, regardless what area you work in or what socioeconomic status you are in and whatever boxes you check on with your demographics, this is something that applies to everyone. Everyone at some point finds themselves wondering if they're on the right path, second guessing themselves, judging themselves. A lot of us are perfectionists and want everything to be a certain way or a certain schedule as to how our life unfolds, but we have to take a step back and really reflect on where we are and what we have to do to get to that next chapter or next step.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely. And that I love that. So you talk about your book that you wrote, and all that you're doing around helping to teach people about self-improvement. What are the steps that you really have? And I love them. I know them, but for our listeners, to really help reconnect back to our best version of ourselves. And, those steps you really talk about that are simple, yet go such a long way.
Absolutely. So I think that you already said one of the biggest things that anyone could say, which is step back. And step back means step more inward into yourself, connect more to yourself. What's really going on with you? And the world doesn't teach us that, at least, even like people have this idea, oh, you come from India and people know how to meditate. Well, the truth is yoga and meditation became big here, and then it again went back to India. So learning to step back means giving a short pause to yourself, whatever that is. And the book is filled with lots of tips, lots of simple techniques that one can do. But one of the most basic thing I tell people to do, as simple as it sounds, is to say, breathe, take a deep breath in and out. It's very scientific. It's very real. It gives you a pause. I don't think people realize that our breathing, a long, deep inhalation and an exhalation, directly impacts our mind, our emotions. And no one's ever taught us, like, how do you deal with your emotions when you feel fearful or when you're angry or when you're restless or when you're just uncertain? And this science that comes from India, the Vedic tradition, is entirely around being able to have a say over, a control over how we feel inside. And meditation is one of the fastest way. And there's so many techniques of meditations out there. But one thing that I tell people is breathing, just like an exercise, long, deep in and out breath, first thing in the morning, 10 breaths, Last thing when you go to bed, 10 breath will change how your mind is. And throughout the day, if you're going to go into a board meeting, I remember when as a lawyer, there's going to be a meeting. First thought in my head is like, oh, come on, no more meetings. Like nobody really wants them. Nobody's
No.
really listening to
Nobody's like,
them.
yay, meetings.
Yeah, exactly. And you go there and you're like, oh my God, why am I here? And then, somehow you walk out of there feeling impatient or frustrated. If when there's stress, if you find your mind getting restless, you do 10 long breaths. What we do is we shut off what is called the sympathetic response, meaning fear, freeze, and flight. And we turn on physiologically the rest and relaxation response, parasympathetic. And it is pure science. And I use it after 35 years every single day. I get up in the morning, I lay on my back, and I do 10 breaths. It does two things. It gets me out of my bed enthusiastic with a good positive outlook. And number two, it starts me with a more clear, more focused mind by shutting off maybe an incomplete sleep cycle. I don't know if that's happened to you. It's certainly with me. It's true for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You're sleeping, it's your deepest state of sleep, and your alarm goes off because you got to get up. And so that creates an incomplete sleep cycle where the noise from whatever you were processing in your sleep, and that's what we use our sleep for, to process out the unwanted stress. When we don't sleep, we don't get to process it, and then we become more stressful the next day. We carry it in our day when we have an incomplete cycle. And those 10 breaths, long breath in and out, the best you can, what that does is it closes a file, just like on a computer. Have you noticed, Renee? You're working on a file and you've forgotten that in the background, there are 10 other files open from yesterday or a week ago. And that drains our energy in the background. The computer is using up energy because there's 100 files open. Well, the same is true with our brain. We have so many files open. Something that happened 10 days ago is going on in the background somewhere, or something that happened yesterday, or something that's going to happen tomorrow. Oh my God, when I get to the office, what if not? What if? All of that is draining our energy and our life force, and we feel exhausted, and our vibe and our outlook and our perception changes. And what I'm saying is 10 breaths will allow us to close those extra tabs that are in the background, sucking up our energy. And the same thing at night. When I go to sleep, when I get into that bed, my mind is going, oh, I should have, would have, could have. And I don't want to enter sleep like that, because it's not going to be deep level 3 sleep like I used to sleep once when I was a kid. So what do? I do 10 long breaths in and out, and that would have, should have, could have, yada, 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 goes completely quiet. And then I enter sleep, and I know that I rest so much more deeply, so much more sound. 6 hours later, I'm fresh and alert and vibrant, again, ready to bounce out of bed. So that's the biggest tip I could tell people. And you can use that breath throughout the day. And nobody knows you're doing it. I'm just asking you, make it longer than the breath that's going on at that moment. So if you're breathing 1, 2, then breathe a little longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold and breathe out. You don't need to count, just breathe in and out. And the second thing I do every day, Renee, is when I go to bed, my hand just kind of goes on my chest automatically now. And I just tell myself, a day and a life is over. I've done the best I could. Tomorrow is another day and another life, and anything is possible. I tell you, if you invite sleep like that, you invite the next day to be that much better. And the first thing in the morning, that awareness comes. Anything is possible. Yesterday's gone. Today I'm going to go out and make it the best possible day. And that means love and kindness for oneself. That means giving myself permission to have a new beginning and different results, and not get caught up in, oh, what if the same thing happens again? What if this doesn't work out? It's just, I'm here. I give my 100%. I'm in the here and now, and I vibe with that. And that, I think, makes a huge lot of difference for people.
Yeah, I completely, oh, I love those. And I'm going to be doing a lot of those myself. But I just like that these are small, yet very beneficial ways to improve. You talk about improving your sleep. That improves so much in your day and improves how you start and end the day, how you're feeling. You need that to have your body just rest and recover. And I know
Yeah.
personally for myself, I find myself, my mind is always going in a million different directions. And I'm always multitasking. And I'm always like, as you talk about those 10 files that are open, that's me all the time. So it's very important in this day and age. I feel like with social media and with everyone always so connected to their phones and screens and whatever electronic device, we do often forget to take time to just take a step back and to just breathe and just be in the moment. And also, as you mentioned, with just putting your hand on your chest, that's just recognizing you're human. You did what you could in that 24 hours. Let's go to sleep and try again tomorrow and do what and sleep tomorrow, and just acknowledging that you are, and even within self-improvement, acknowledging that you did your best. You tried your hardest. You did all you could. And I love it. So tell our listeners where they can follow you with your books that you're writing, where they can check out your book, The Power of Vital Force, Fuel Your Energy, Purpose, and Performance with Ancient Secrets of Breath and Meditation, and to keep up with all these incredible tips that you have to help better themselves.
So there's lots and lots and lots of tips in the book. First of all, you'll get to go through some exercises that brings a lot of self-awareness and recognition on the things you want to change, including some tips on meditation, different breathing techniques, and so on and so forth. Just go to thepowerofvitalforce.com. Thepowerofvitalforce.com. That's also the name of the book that just got released about 3 months ago. And again, it's filled with things. And I think something you said that's so big and so important, which often gets overlooked in this day and age because we're so plugged in, is we sacrifice sleep as if it's a luxury. Whenever we need to do something, we somehow say, okay, I'll sleep a little later. And to your point, Renee, your sleep is what allows you to do everything else you have to do in your day. And we just sacrifice sleep, which means we sacrifice ourselves, and it's fine. It can happen every so often, but sometimes it becomes a habit, and that makes the mind, our brain, more racy. It makes it go all over the place. And we know that about an hour and a half later, your brain needs a little rest. So if you just did 2-3 long breaths, you refresh. It's like hitting the restart button. And we have that ability to do that. And sleep does that in a way that's unimaginable to us. So I just always encourage people to say, you matter. And that means sleep matters. That's where your body heals, your emotions get a rest, your mind gets to settle down, and you bring greater quality and longevity and better immunity and relationships into your life. So please do take care of that. Really, 6, 7, 8 hours of timely sleep is an absolute must. And if you don't have the time, then meditation and breathing will add value to you very simply and very easily, for sure.
Oh, I love this. And it's perfect timing that it is. I know September was self-improvement month, but also with January, and now actually February, but the start of a new year in general, people are always trying to say, new year, new me, better me, whatever else. But these are great ways to be healthier, happier, make the most out of each day. When you talk about wanting to have, goals and New Year's resolutions that you follow throughout the rest of the year, this is a great spot to start. Just getting sleep, changing your mentality and your mindset, changing your approach to things. And I'm definitely going to be looking into your book because these are some incredible tips that can help go a long way. So Rajshree Patel, thank you so much for joining our Positive Vibes Only segment on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington. It has been a pleasure having you here. And I'm looking forward to reading all the incredible, pieces of advice that you have in your book. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Pleasure speaking with you. And I really wish you the best of New Year and appreciate you spreading out the good messages to everybody. So thank you.